Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Wilson. I'm the national spokesman for the Freedom Union here in Australia. And with me tonight, once again, we have a great ambassador, great activist for the Freedom Union, Mr. Paul Pettit, our Melbourne representative. Good evening, Paul. How are you, sir?
Good as gold, John. Good as g'day, everyone.
That's great. Okay, it's Friday tonight, the 5th of December. The year is exhausting itself. We're nearly up to the Christmas festive holiday break, ladies and gentlemen, and we are bringing you commentary, analysis, and some intel on what is happening here in Australia and around the world. Paul, I want to open up and talk about a very, very controversial and interesting upload that was done by Rick Bosey from Australia One on the Green Room. And it was about child trafficking, pedophilia, institutional pedophilia. It involved police and others. You've seen that recording, Paul?
No, not yet. I'll watch it after this tonight.
A hard watch, Paul, for two reasons. One is the subject matter, but the other is Australia One, Rick Bosey, continually has this interference in doing his upload, and it's so frustratingly slow. So, it's a hard watch. It's a hard watch. But
I have noticed the way they buffer him. Oh, it's terrible.
It's really, really crook stuff. Look, the interview was with a guy called Rob G down in Shoalhaven. It was, let me show you my town. And he speaks about a young child, 6-7-year-old child, whose father was a senior police officer, but also the father of the child was also part of an organised pedophile network down in the Illawarra. Very ugly stuff, Paul. Very ugly stuff. But, Paul, I want to lead in and say that none of this is new. None of this is new. Wollongong has always had a very, very dark and ugly side to it. And going back decades, that involved the body politic and also involved police. And there's some very ugly stories coming out from down there, Paul. In Rick's interview, the guy called Rob G, who done everything he can to defend some young children against this pedophilia and trafficking, and he himself ended up spending 12 months or thereabouts, I don't know the exact time, in Long Bay Jail. They ended up charging and jailing him, okay, as the defender of children. And while he was in jail, he testified on the Green Room that he met heaps of other men in there who were all jailed for trying to defend children, their children or someone else's children. And how in jail, the pedophiles, the child molesters and the traffickers get treated a lot lightly and get privileges that the defenders of children don't. They get smashed, okay? This is really serious, institutionalized corruption that at its heartbeat, at its center, involves young children. Ugly, ugly stuff. Let me just put it on for a minute and see if we can grasp. I'm not good at this tech stuff, Paul, so just sit tight, okay?
At the time he was molesting head, and Johnny sorted them out. And what they do with anyone that busts their circuit of child sex trafficking on the South Coast, they put a person down on drugs. So you won't get out of your cell unless they give you a self-dissolving pill like alloilozepine, or which they put me on for 7 months. Even though I hadn't had any confrontation, there was one confrontation with a crackhead, but that went to the showers and got sorted. But everybody left me alone, and the funny thing was, what I couldn't get over was these guys are there. How many men were in there? There was a couple of army blokes. There was another guy who could get no response from the police. He had 3 daughters molested. There was me. And then straight across from 7 when you're 13, when Roger Rogerson was there, you know, the guy that used to protect ex-Costello boys' brothel, he was there, and all these other pedophiles, well, they get to go to church first, they get to get their dentals fixed. One of the elderly guys that was over there that raped his 4 grandchildren, and then the 4 neighbours' kids, he got a 12 months good behaviour in the Downing Centre. So when you get in there with the team, you know, these guys, and you turn around and you say, well, hang on a second, why are these guys in jail? Because they've gone to the police and the police won't do nothing about it. I mean, Raptor Squad raided my property, Anna Hill, Gary Knight, Colin Knight, Mark Anderson, Peter Bailey, Clayton.
You there, Paul?
Yeah.
You can hear the testimony coming from this Rob G, and it's ugly, Paul. It's ugly, mate. Our country has a very deep infection, and it's pedophilia, it's child trafficking, it's organ harvesting, and it's all of this satanic and occultic practice that many people in this country are participating on. It's got to be cleaned up, Paul. I mean, this has gotten worse. I mean, going back many years ago, Paul, I can remember that there used to be a guy called Frank Arkell down in Wollongong. Now, Frank Arkell was the Lord Mayor of Wollongong, the Lord Mayor, and he was really heavily involved in child trafficking and pedophilia. Not just on his own, he was part of a big ring of these people. Okay, and there's also been a second Lord Mayor. Okay, a second Lord Mayor down in Wollongong, who has also Lord Mayor Bevan, I think it is, Bevan. He died in cancer in 1991. Frank Arkell was murdered. He was murdered at his home, and from memory serves me quick, he was murdered by one of his child rape victims. Okay, but what you need to see, Paul, is that none of this was investigated. The New South Wales police would not go anywhere near Frank Arkell. He raped children. Him and Bevan raped children for decades. Okay? And Wollongong was a very, very unsafe place to grow up as a child, because the Lord Mayor and all of the body politic were involved in raping children, but so were the cops. Look, Paul, I've spoken to a seafarer. I know a lot of them, Paul, from my union days. Okay, I know a lot of these seafarers in my union days. I spoke to a couple of these guys, mate, long-term guys, container ships going in and out, children going in and out. And I said, listen, you guys got to keep your eyes out. If you see containers in there with kids and so on, you got to get something done about it. And you know what they said to me, Paul? They said, John, who do we report it to? Who do we tell? If we come across a container with 20 young kids being smuggled into or out of Australia, who do we tell? Do we tell the cops, rotten to the core, corrupt and probably part of the trafficking? Do we tell Border Force? Do we tell Immigration Department? Again, rotten and are all tied into it. He said, John, if I open my mouth and report it, not one seafarer, this is coming from quite a few of them. If I open my mouth and try and report children being trafficked, he said, they'll come after my kids, mate. I will get murdered or my kids will get hurt. And so, no, sorry, if I see a container load of children going in and out of the ports, I'm not saying nothing. I'm going to look the other way. That's what we have. They can ship kids with immunity through our ports, airports, and elsewhere, because all those people who should be doing something right look the other way. And down in Wollongong and down in the Shoalhaven, Paul, this is bad. It's bad. And the reason why it's so bad, it's because the New South Wales cops are part of it. They're part of it. The senior cops are part of it. The body politic we know are facilitating all of this and participating in all of this, Paul. Paul, look, those young brothers, those boys who raped and murdered that New South Wales nurse, Anita Cobby. Yeah. They raped her for hours, Paul. Hours, this young nurse coming off shift, wrapped her up in barbed wire and threw her in a dam to drown her. Those young lads, okay, who did this horrific crime, they themselves, the Murphy brothers, were handed around in pedophile rings, in rape rings, where the upper echelons of Sydney society used to rape them and traffic them. And that's what you manufacture. When you do this to a young child, a broken young child grows up into a broken adult, and they then become predators. And I think both these brothers also did time in a boys' home out in Western Sydney. I mean, I've heard all this fucking bullshit coming from these so-called experts in the freedom movement. There is no one in Australia, no one, who's done longer time than me, 5.5 years, in the worst institution this country's ever known. Westbrook Farm for the Boys, the Wilson Youth Hospitals. These institutions were hell on earth. And I'm the second longest serving institutionalized child in there. I've heard all the stories because these broken kids from Wollongong, these broken kids from Sydney and Newcastle, they ended up coming up to Queensland, committing crimes and being locked up, where I would meet them and they would tell me their stories. I've known about this evil shit going way back into the 1970s because I've had first-hand testimony coming from young children who would tell me, people who are in these other boys and Mount Penang and bloody Tirana down in Melbourne, and they all said they were holiday camps compared to Westbrook. They all said that. They gave me testimony about how rotten these courts are, these cops are, and all the rest of them. I don't know, Paul. I'll tell you now, for anyone out there, for everyone, I'm 65 now, Paul. A lot of water's gone under the bridge for me. But let me tell you this, the one thing that I can't shake out of my head is a young teenager being gang raped in the next cell next to me when I was locked up. And you should have heard the noise coming from this young child. Destroys them, takes away their very being, and they end up growing into predators themselves. I've heard all of this, mate, in the next cell. I am 5.5 years institutionalized, Paul, in this monster. No one laid a finger on me. No one. For two reasons. One is I was a young psychopath. To attempt to sexually assault me meant you were playing with your life. You were playing with your life. That's how serious I used to fight. The second thing is I took control of all the tobacco, all the money coming in and out, all the food. I took control of the economy of the institution. So I was untouchable. So I personally have never had a finger laid on me. But I'll tell you what I've witnessed, what I've seen in my life, coming from the guards, coming from the other inmates, coming from these fucking churches. They used to take these boys out for weekend events, and they'd put them in a rape gang all weekend. They'd come back, mate, suicidal. And I used to talk to these youngsters. Unbelievable, Paul. And I congratulate Rick Bosey for bringing this to light. And I also congratulate Rob G. I don't know his proper name, but Rob, I understand exactly what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying. And to be jailed, to be turned into a criminal when you're the one trying to save children is an abomination. It's an abomination.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob G, for speaking out. It's such a brave thing. I mean, we've got a pedo in the family. He's in jail at the moment, but it took about 5 years to get him there, mate. They just turned the other bloody cheek. They don't want to know about it. And this was a particularly nasty pedo. So I got a bit of an understanding of it. But for you to hear that, that's something you're never going to forget. I mean, I can't forget the cries of a child being pepper sprayed in Melbourne. Imagine what you've gone through. So, yeah.
I've seen them hang themselves, Paul. I mean, you want to see the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, mate, that used to hang themselves inside there. You'd think you're having a normal conversation with them, brother, and everything's good. You're playing checkers or chess or something. They say, oh, I've just got to go to the men's toilet or whatever. They go away. Next thing you know, half an hour later, they're swinging. They're swinging. And it's not just it's all the children in there. Many of them suicided. Many of them got out and suicided. I mean, a lot of them never made it into adulthood. Never. Okay? Now, all I'm saying, Paul, I'm sick of listening to all the bullshit artists and all the big fucking so-called experts on, pedophilia who won't say anything, won't do anything, right? Okay? But lecture me and others. No one can lecture me, mate. I've seen enough in my lifetime to frighten the living shit out of most people. But here I am. I'm still here. I'm still fighting for the cause. And I'll tell you now, you lay a hand on a young child in front of me, look out. Look out. And to all you fucking cops out there, all you stinking law enforcement, you judges who have either participated in the rape and trafficking of children or who are looking the other way, I hope a junkie sticks a knife into you. I can't do it and I won't do it. I'm not a violent man. But let me tell you now, I hope the junkies on the street give you a little bit of straight justice when you're walking down the footpath.
Their day's coming, John. Their day's coming, mate. I just noticed, I read the other day that in Sydney, the detectives, these are probably the real coppers, say like white hat coppers, so to speak. They arrested they busted a pedophile network, child porn, bestiality. They dragged him out. It's all on film there, and so I'm hopeful that it's starting. Justice is prevailing. John, do you think it is?
I think finally the awareness. Look. As much as I fucking will hate this law enforcement in this country, I mean it. They held our necks. They put our necks on the block while Big Pharma and government were chopping our heads off with this coronavirus vaccine. Okay, I can't stand the police, mate. We had a social contract with the cops. We always have. They have never had authority to do what they do. They've never had any of that, right? They got it because there was a social contract in place. Australians would say, okay, fair enough. You have to do that. We'll look the other way, but don't let it get out of hand and don't fucking, start putting it onto us. Well, that's what they've done. There's no social contract between all of us, all Australians, and the law enforcement of this country. None. I mean, we all used to say, oh well, everyone should be able to go to work and come home safe, and that's my view. That's my view, except for the police. If they go to work and get knifed by a junkie, if they get murdered, then I'm not going to shed a tear, Paul, and I'm not bullshitting anymore. I'm not shedding a tear for these fucking genocidal cops, mate. I'm not. And I'm not shedding a tear for these fucking cops who look the other way while we have trafficking going on an industrial scale. And children being raped in their thousands. You want me to enter into a social contract with that scum? No way. They've all got to go, Paul. They've all got to go. Look, let's move on and talk about the cops. They're bleeding, Paul. They're bleeding. Their numbers are bleeding. Their seniority is bleeding. They're losing experience. They're also losing numbers. New cops won't stay. They're leaving. Now this is being reported in the corporate press. You've got to be a bit careful believing anything they say, but it's also being reported by ex-police officer Jay, who is Aboriginal, 10 years in the force, and he's got a YouTube channel called The Slippery Slope. So, he's reporting it. He's reporting how bad the numbers are looking, okay? Let's just look at some of the headlines, Paul, if we can, okay? Bear with me. If you have a look at mainstream media, okay, Queensland Police are facing their biggest exodus in 5 years. It's 5 days old. They go in to saying that burnout is largely blamed, and it's experienced a shortfall of 1,400 officers as it's struggling to retain staff despite a big recruitment drive. 709 Queensland police officers left the force last financial year, including retirement, while the state has only gained 450 more officers since 2020. So they're really, really bleeding, Paul. They're bleeding, okay? If you go and look at the slippery slope and just see what Jay is saying.
Worst staff exodus in 5 years as the burnout spreads. Wow. What happens? This is what happens. If only someone had been pointing out for the last couple of years that you shouldn't be, you've let your recruitment standards lower, you're recruiting the wrong kind of people, and they're not going to be able to handle the pressure, the stress. If only someone had been saying that. And golly gee, now the courier mail's cottoned onto this. What do you know? Police are abandoning careers at unprecedented rates. Queensland police are hemorrhaging staff almost as quickly as they are recruiting, with officers on the ground saying cops are leaving in droves as they are burnt out and defeated. Exclusive data obtained by the Courier Mail has revealed 709 sworn police left the service in the last financial year. So,
Paul, there you go, brother.
John, do you think, burnout, whatever that means, but do you think it's also they can't attract the young people because of the stigma attached to being, the hatred towards the police? I mean, who wants that? Do you think that's a factor?
Paul, look, the Queensland Police Service, just like all the other law enforcement jurisdictions, they've become poisonous. They become poisonous to work there. When you work there, there's no camaraderie. There's no brotherhood. There's none of that. It's dog eat dog, and they throw each other under the bus, okay? So it's an environment where not only the public hates you, but also within the service itself, they treat you like rubbish, okay? And so these new recruits, they can't handle that, mate. They give it a couple of years or maybe 3 or 4 years, but then they drop out. The money's not worth it.
Yeah, but
I don't believe burnout. That's bullshit. That's absolute cover story crap.
But I mean, they don't know all that stuff until they've actually joined. and people aren't actually signing up prior to that. So what's the reason? What has scared them off? Is it the stigma of being a cop now? I think that's a factor.
I think it's an element of it, mate. It's an element of it. I also think that the senior officers, the senior brass are so bad. They cast such a corrupt shadow, such a poisonous shadow, that the juniors are saying, "Hey, shit, you know, we don't want to participate," and they leave.
Yeah.
Look, Paul, you can see that really, really ugly stuff that's coming out. Okay, Queensland Police. I want to move on if I can, Paul. I want to talk about an inquiry that's going on, a union inquiry up here in Queensland. Okay, they've got this union inquiry, and it's all about the CFMEU, etc., etc. Okay, and they're under administration now. The testimony that was given was coming from the leader, the secretary, the Queensland secretary of the Australian Workers Union, which is another trade union that competes with membership with the CFMEU, right? The leader of the AWU is giving testimony against the CFMEU. Testimony alleging violence and threats and all sorts of really nasty, heavy stuff that's being inflicted upon the Australian workers. I mean, she was crying in the box, okay, giving evidence, started crying. She said, they know where I live and I'm scared. So let's unpack it a little bit, and I'll play a clip if I can, Paul. I'm not that tech savvy, but I'll see if I can play a clip here. But listen. What we've got to go back to is this. Look, number one, the Australian Workers Union in Queensland is one of the oldest unions, if not the oldest union here in this country. It came from the old shearers, okay, the sheep shearers, the shearing union, right? That's where it started in the 1880s. Out Longreach, they had a big shearers union meeting out there, thousands of shearers came from all around the district.
Full Freemason.
Yes. The AWU, mate, the AWU, right, have been from day one and all the way through for the last 100 years or more Freemasonic. The Freemasons own the AWU, right? They own it and they protect it. It's got a huge property portfolio. It's rotten and corrupt as they come, right? But the Freemasons protect it. The cops protect it. The judges, the judicial protect it, and the body politic, the inside the parliament, they protect it. They're all Freemasonic, okay? They have serious protections. I know this firsthand, Paul, because back in the 1980s, we came up to Queensland to clean out and get rid of a corrupt CFMEU leadership. It was prior to amalgamation. It was the Engine Drivers Union, the FEDFA, but then went into the CFMEU. We got rid of them because they were rotten and corrupt, okay? And the confrontations that we were having out there was that they were being protected. The corrupt CFMEU leadership were being protected by the cops. I'm telling you, they are rotten to the core up here in Queensland, rotten to the core, okay? Now, we cleaned out the CFMEU. We cleaned them out. And we said, we're not tolerating this nonsense, having paid women and cocaine and all the rest of it in these union paid, functions. Get out. We're not copping that. So we got rid of them all. We gave the union back to the members, right? We gave it back to the members. The president and the secretary that we got rid of went to jail, 4 years jail. Barry Gannon and Ken Goodhue were the president and the secretary, and we jailed them. We jailed them because we don't support, never supported corruption. Okay. Now, since then, the new leadership, years later, more corruption. They got immersed in a heap of corruption. That leader went to jail, okay? And then they brought in Michael Rabbar, okay? Now, Michael Rabbar's conduct now is up for, judgment, right? Okay, let me try and find a clip, Paul, and play it, and you can see the testimony that's being given, okay? The lady on the left, Jacqueline King, she's the General Secretary of the Queensland Council of Trade Unions, okay? And I know Jacqueline. I've worked with Jacqueline when I worked for the Federated Clerks Union. I don't know who this Tracy Shinerl is, but she's the Secretary of the Australian Workers' Union in Queensland.
After more than a century of competitive coexistence.
Leaving egos out of the room, that we could sit down and try and forge a new pathway in Queensland.
As for the CFMEU, Ms King described its former leadership under Secretary Michael Ravbar and Assistant Secretary Jade Ingham as autocratic. Ms Chanel claimed that she and her union experienced escalating volatility from 2019 as the CFMEU started chasing civil contracts considered AWU territory. She alleged that hostility escalated in 2022 after she became the AWU's first female leader.
In my view, my elevation to that role was seen as an opportunity.
One of the things the Freemasons are very good in the trade unions is that they groom very, usually quite competent and smart young people, and they put them in senior leadership roles and surround them with handlers. And they're very good at it. And this Stacey Chanel looks like one of those, a young, an attractive woman, quite an astute young woman, and surrounded by lots of elderly Freemason handlers, okay?
By the CFMEU, perhaps, to finally take the industries they wanted from the AWU. Perhaps a female leader would be easy to roll.
Ms Chanel told the Commission the turning point occurred during this conference, after she made a joke about the CFMEU storming a government building.
I've been told by many sources that Mr Ravbar has identified that particular moment as myself starting a war with the CFMEU. The following week, he called all staff in to Brisbane, whereby he discussed plans to, I quote, take down the AWU. Our organisers were being very severely verbally assaulted and challenged. The frequency of those experiences were so recurrent and so often, after a while, our organisers took it as par for the course and did not report every incident.
One such incident allegedly occurred here at the site of the Cross River Rail project.
Organiser Jamie McQueen had arrived at site before the rest of us, and his car was currently surrounded by CFMEU members. Mr McQueen had been shown a weapon, his tyres had been let down, and he'd been told not to exit the vehicle.
Around the same time, it's alleged, a verbal threat was made against Ms Chanel.
Words to the effect of, if I stick my head up, it will get knocked off.
How did you take that?
I took that to be a threat in my life.
Did it give you concerns for your family as well?
Yourself, so
Okay, Paul, you can see the testimony coming from the Australian Workers' Union, one of Australia's, if not Australia's oldest union, and the biggest branch of the AW. There's a big branch up here, the Australian Workers' Union, and they've been Freemasonic for 100 years or more. Okay, you can see the interesting thing here is that the Queensland Police will not pursue any investigations if it's threats by Jade Ingham or Michael Ravbar against another union. They will not get involved. This is historic. I can tell you now, in all of the big inter-union fights that I've been involved in, mate, the cops are very, very standoffish. And where they have got involved, particularly when it's been involved the communists, mate, we have given them a right royal flogging, right? Okay, we've really embarrassed them and hurt their brand big time. So they're very, very nervous about having anything to do with the the communists, the left unions. Now, Michael Rabbar and Jade Ingham, they're from the left. They're part of the globalist, left-wing, useful idiots, okay? And they're taking on the Freemason. So there's a big political split up here in Queensland. Big political split. We got the cops won't do anything. They're bleeding numbers. They're bleeding seniority. They're bleeding overall numbers. They won't do their job in terms of investigating threats or any of this sort of nonsense, right? Inter-union stuff, they stay right out of it, right? There's some very interesting collisions going on up here and struggles for power. And you can see the Freemasons, they have regrouped. They're regrouped, right? They want another run. They got very tired, very disorganized there for a year or two, but now they're regrouping, coming back for another go, okay? And a cornerstone up here in Queensland to the Freemasons is the Australian Workers' Union. Have a look at how many judges used to work for the Australian Workers' Union. Have a look at how many governments. I mean, the Minister of Health, Yvette Duff. I don't think she's in Parliament now, but I've worked when I worked for the Federated Clerks. She is the Minister for Health. She was the one that was giving us all this New World Order vaccines and all this. I know these people intimately, Paul. Intimately, okay? I know the factions and the power bases in their hidden hands. None of it gets past me. None of it. But the Australian Workers' Union have been rattled. They want to bury the CFMEU and offer themselves up as an alternative union inside of construct. It'll never happen, Paul. The Australian Workers' Union betray and sell out their members on a daily basis. They're Freemasons. They don't care about their members. They only care about the power that their members bring along with them. They harvest the power. They harvest the money. They harvest all the assets, right? They run all of that. They don't care about the members, right?
But
the members are just...
the CFMEU sold out the members as well, though, John. With
yes, in a different way. Different. All I'm saying is the Australian Workers' Union for decades and decades and decades have betrayed their members. They've never been anything different. They've always sold out and betrayed their members. And most of those union activists that work in the civil construction industry hate them. They hate them. They know that they're a pack of grubs, right? And they don't represent and do nothing. Whereas the CFMEU, they've betrayed their members on a much bigger scale, right? They sold them out and betrayed them to Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and more. So it's interesting watching this power struggle going on up here, Paul. Very, very interesting, okay?
And the AWU, they seem to have an endless supply of pop-up leaders. I don't know, they recruit them from the DMLA schools or whatever, but it's just...
Look, the former National Secretary of the Australian Workers' Union, right, okay, was a guy I used to interact with all the time in the unions and when I went into the corporate sector, a guy called Terry Muscat, right? Now, Terry was the National Secretary of the AWU, but he was a Knight of Malta. And I'm one of the handful of people that knew this, you see. And so we were quite good mates. I'm a communist. There were things I couldn't say. He knew that. And he was a Knight of Malta. Things he couldn't say, and I knew that. But we would go and have a beer together, and where we had common interests, we would share information, okay? We would share it. I mean, these were heavy-duty people that, used to hang out with the Prime Minister and other ministers on a weekly basis. So, people don't understand this. I mean, have a look at the Rebels Bike Group, okay? Alex Vella, who's not incarcerated, but he can't come back to Australia. He's over in Malta. He was the national president of the Rebels Bike Group, okay? One of those big bikey. Well, he's a Knight of Malta. He is a Knight of Malta, Alex Vella, okay? Now, his son He went over to Malta. They cancelled all of his paperwork. He couldn't come back, so he's stuck there. And so his son is now the national president of the Rebels Bike Group. Now, I've been watching closely what's been going on inside of that cadre, because they're plugged into the CFMEU and others. And if you want to know what's going on in the back, you go and look at the bike groups. And it's also full of cops, mate, undercover cops, okay? But these secret societies have permeated all the way through here in Australia. And what most people believe is who's running the country is in fact not. We've got these secret societies, folks, and it's not just the Freemasons. I keep saying it's the Knights of Malta, it's the Fabians, it's the Zionists, and they're very dangerous people to this nation, to our communities, and to our family. Okay. Okay. What have we got? What else is on our list, Paul?
John. This morning, a lady named Gabby Chung, who's very, very well known down here, or probably around Australia, she put out.
Gabby up to, brother? What's Gabby up to?
Gabby Chung is very, very good at describing the occult and sort of heavy stuff like that, and the Ziomasonic symbolism, and she's really, really deep. And she was an SRA victim, and the post she put out today, I'll just read what she headlined it. And,
hang on a minute, mate. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me. Bear with me. Cancel. Bear with me, brother, and I'll try to. No, I can't find it, bro.
That's all right. I could just read the headline. It's pretty short.
Yeah, mate.
Here we go. Gabby Chung, SRA victim. The St Kilda chapter of RDA, Reignite Democracy Australia, is registered under the name of Moshe Elkman, a Chabad Lubervich rabbi who is a childhood friend of Morgan Jonas, also a shill for the Noahide law. I'm not sure what Noahide law is. The same Chabad Lubervich that Avi Yemeni worships. Can you tell us about this Chabad Lubervich, John? Have you ever mixed with that mob?
Oh, I've never mixed with them. I know who they are. The Chabad Lubervich are a faction of the Ashkenazi Jews that we have. So they're a faction. They're a group that stands in their own right. And there's some nuances about them. But listen, in essence, they are very, very evil and very bad actors, mate. Very bad actors. They're all part of the enslavement of mankind. They hate you and I, Paul. We are goyim. We are goyim. Okay, and therefore, according to their religious teachings, they can do whatever they like to us, including rape and traffic our children. Okay, and that's who these people are tied up with.
What the hell is Monica doing in being involved with that mob, for God's sake?
They're her handlers, Paul.
But why?
They are her handlers.
This is only new, very new news to most people. Like
old news to me, Paul.
Yeah.
But what Gabby's done is Gabby's just pointed out what everyone knows, or what everyone should know, is that Monica Smit and her associates, her cabal, right, are all being coordinated by the Chabad Lubervich Ashkenazi Jew faction, right, to get us Goyim organised. That's what it's all about.
Well, I can say the shit has hit the fan down here, because the social media has just exploded over this one, John. And people may say, well, so what? Who cares? But it's very important, because if these people get their way, they will have social influence over the people in certain ways, and we don't want that. So
these people want the public to hand over their authority to them. so that they follow. They don't want to fix anything. They don't want to cure anything. They don't want to remedy anything. They want us to keep fighting and keep to the point of exhaustion. And then they come in and say that we'll roll over and just agree to anything they throw at us.
Well, that's a good
bad
point.
Actors, Paul.
Well, that's a good point, John, because the thing is, now that this mob, RDA mob, they've taken a massive hit, they've probably blown it. And the good news about that is that brings everyone together, left, right, whatever. When these mobs go down, it actually brings everyone together, which is their biggest nightmare, that we come together. And I'm wondering now, who is next on the hit list?
Well, one of the other things that you observed, right, was someone identified themselves in the commentary as being a Zionist. Who was that?
Yes, that was
son of Brian Shaw. Ben Shaw commented about that. What did he say?
Yeah, that he is a full-blown Zionist, which I had no idea.
You got the son of Brian Shaw, Ben Shaw, going public, posting that and admitting that he is a Zionist. Is that right, Paul?
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, the rot runs deep, Paul. The rot runs deep, everybody. The rot runs deep. You may not like Como John. You may not like me. You might not like my history. I get that. I own everything I've done. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I own it, and I don't walk away from it. But let me tell you now, I am not a member of any other organisation, no political party. I have sworn no oaths to nobody and never will. I will never join a political party. I will never stand for any office. I don't want any jobs. I want nothing. I have no baggage, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I've got a very interesting history, but I have no other commitments. My commitments are to the Freedom Union and to defend its members as best I can, And you can see those that have taken up in opposition against this union and against the national strike. I've exposed the fucking lot of them. I've caught them all out, ladies and gentlemen. I've caught them all out.
They've
all now exposing themselves.
Yes.
They're all now admitting to who they're tied up, who their handlers are. I mean, you can see, even down to, Pauline Hanson, mate. I mean, everyone knows that it's Gina Reinhardt and the billionaires that are pulling her strings. They are her handlers, okay? They are the Praetorian Guard. They're there to protect these institutions that look the other way while children get trafficked and raped, okay? And jail innocent people defending these children and jail them, okay? That's who Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts are protecting.
Yes,
they are
never heard him talk about the 28, the Senate. Never. In fact, I've heard Malcolm Roberts deny it, that the list even exists. So how can the list not exist, John, if John Howard put a 90-year suppression order on this list? How can the bloody list not exist? That doesn't make any sense.
Freemasons are allowed to
lie.
That
doesn't make any sense.
Freemasons are allowed to lie to us Goyim. They're allowed to.
It's a stupid lie. But that's a ridiculous lie. There's no logic to it, John. Honestly.
Work it out for yourself. I mean, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work out when you're being crapped off and lied to. And Malcolm Roberts is doing so, okay? They're protecting this national nest of pedophiles and child traffickers. They're protecting these secret societies. They're looking the other way when children are being trafficked in their thousands, Paul, okay? Listen, none of these people have got, if you want to know what's going on inside these institutions, come and talk to Como John, mate, because I've lived it. I don't Google any of this shit. I've lived it. I mean, my former probation officer, children's service officer, the officer, okay, that used to look after my case, was a guy called Alec Lobbin, okay, Lobbin. He was as gay and camp as a row of tents. He was a homosexual, but he was not a creep. He wasn't. He was a straight guy. He just was gay. He ended up becoming the head of all of Queensland's correctional services, all the jails, not just the children's institutions, but all of the jails, okay? Bogger Road and you know, all of these other regional jails. He ran it in the state of Queensland. He told witnesses that his inspiration to do what he did was because of John Wilson and the fight that I put up and the noise that I made and the life that I've led. He's told witnesses that. He said, man, oh man, that bloke took me. He was just a kid, but he took my breath away and inspired me to go on and change and try and do and fix up things. Okay, he was a good guy, Alec Lobbin, inside of the Queensland Correctional Services. There's hardly anyone in this country, I doubt anyone in this country that knows this subject matter as intimately as I do, who has lived it, not Googled this bullshit. I've heard all the wafflers and bullshit artists, right? They all talk about Tirana and Mount Penang and other boys' home. Look, I'm not saying they were good institutions. They weren't. They were rotten. They were satanic. They had all sorts of pedophilia, trafficking, and everything else going on. But they paled into insignificance when it come to Westbrook Farm for the boys, mate. It was hell on earth. Hell on earth.
That was just outside Toowoomba, wasn't it, John?
Correct. Up where they build the wellness camps, okay, where they were going to incarcerate all us who wouldn't take the jab. Up that way, okay, the wellness camps, okay. They ended up shutting this shit show down, mate. It went through Senate inquiries, parliamentary inquiries. You got no idea the evidence that was tabled. But all I'm saying to all those people out there, those mums and dads, okay, and the reason why I'm in this war doing what I'm doing and I'm committed. I've heard young children being gang raped, and I'm telling you now, mate, I wouldn't wish that upon you or anyone else because I can't shake it off. It's a very, very creepy, life-affecting moment. Paul, that's it for tonight, brother. You've covered anything else there, mate?
Pretty much covered. Yesterday was the 171st commemoration of Eureka Stockade. That's just a little side note. So, yeah, lest we forget that one. But yeah,
lest we forget. Listen, last one, Paul. Look, I'm still watching gold and silver. I'm still watching that they're losing control, Paul. I mean, there's an economic reset coming on. It looks like silver is going to be the market, the silver market that's going to be the one that's going to break it. It's full of derivatives, mate. 100-to-1 derivatives for every 1 ounce of silver. They got 100 contracts on it.
Can I just suggest if anyone out there wants to buy an ounce or a few coins or whatever, or a kilo or whatever, make sure it's in your hot little hand, physical in your hand.
Buy a contract.
Yeah.
Don't buy a contract for an ounce. Buy a hard ounce, as Paul is saying, and secure it yourself, folks. Look, silver, I think, may well be the straw that broke the camel's back in this fiat monetary system. It's looking that way. I'm not an expert, and I'm not telling people investment advice. I'm saying let's crack this tough egg, this financial reset, and the way to do it, mate, is to destroy this fiat currency system. How do you do that? Easiest and smartest way right now is to buy silver. Okay?
They can't manipulate it forever. It's like everything. The truth comes out. So yeah, get ready.
Look, they've suppressed the price for about 50 odd years or more, Paul, going back in the 1970s from memory. And they've been suppressing the price of gold and silver. That price eventually has to catch up. And when it does, those people that own this commodity, own this monetary, piece, silver and or gold, are going to benefit in a big way, because there's going to be a big catch up and the value is going to go up. All the while, you are, a death of 1,000 cuts to the fiat monetary system, because you're getting rid of your fiat currency and exchanging it for a hard asset. Okay.
Yeah, they don't like it. They don't like it.
They don't like it. Look, it's unraveling, Paul.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of other information being released here, Paul. Lots of exposure. Lots of these fakers are now being exposed. Let's come back and have another talk very soon, and keep on to it. Okay.
Well, it's not all doom and gloom. It might have been very dark subjects we spoke about tonight and all of that, but it's all part of the awakening, and we're winning. And so don't let it get you down. It's not enjoy the show, but look, it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good.
Yeah. Paul, last thing, and then I'll wrap it up, Paul, is the trade union bonds, the Freedom Union bonds that have been released. Man, oh man, I've had a very, very good response. Not thousands of people, but the people who have responded, mate, have been heavy hitters, wanting some, very sizable bonds. I'm progressing it. It's going well. I've got to set them up and automate it and do this inside of our system. I pay thousands of dollars a month for our webpage and for our database and all that. So I've got to get it and do it inside our system, so I don't have to pay money and employ someone to do this. So that's why I've got to automate it, folks. We don't have the money to go and pay salaries out there. That's why I've got to try and automate it as much as I can. But it's looking really good, really good. I've got a lot more to report on this coming up. Thank you, Paul. Do you want to say good night?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Okay, John Wilson, national spokesman for the Freedom Union. Today, Friday, the December the 5th. Have a great weekend, everyone. Lovely to talk to you. More uploads coming. Thank you.